This is a response to your latest video to me regarding my assumptions, etc., etc. The first thing I want to say is that in regards to morals and morality, you're claiming that there's some kind of absolute morality out there. Now, to paraphrase the argument by Epicurus, I think I said his name right, if morals exist as absolute entities, then they are independent of a god, not the creation of a god. If they are the creation of a god, in other words, the choice of a god, then morality is, at its most fundamental level, a subjective thing. If we're looking at the biblical God, the one that you believe in, apparently, then even there we see a change in the fundamental moral structure from the early Old Testament to the later New Testament. So even then, moral codes, moral values change, and hence, if they change, they can't be absolute. I'm going to state flat out that morality cannot be absolute because of these things. Morality has to always be relative in some way and subjective in others, in regards to human cultures and subcultures and things I've listed before. And yes, I'm looking over at a list here because I wanted to hit these topics. Another problem with your argument that I have is that you kind of chide me on making assumptions, yet you are presupposing the existence of a deity to explain morality. This deity that you presuppose, well, where's the demonstrable, verifiable evidence for its existence? Without that evidence, without demonstrable proof, and I don't mean proof in a mathematical sense, I mean proof in the more layman sense, where is anything for me to take as being a valid reason for why your morality is correct and why your claim that absolute morality exists is also correct? So continuing with that idea, let me put out just a simple list. We both have explanations for moral systems and moral values. My explanation is naturalistic. It's based on what exists around us. Excuse me. Sorry about that. And we have observational data that can corroborate and correlate that position. Your position, in reference to moral systems and values, is premised on something that is not demonstrable, that is not been shown to actually exist. In pros and cons, my view is actually more complete than yours. My view follows Occam's razor. Your view, on the other hand, posits this other entity that you would have to prove first before your view would be could be accepted as even being potentially valid. Now, with that said, how does one independently determine absolute morals? Now, if absolute morals exist, they have to be something that can be determined independent of any written text. They would have to be something like the fundamental laws of nature. You don't have to read a science book to recognize that gravity exists. You're not going to jump off a roof because you just believe in gravity. Or at least I hope you don't. So, if absolute morality exists, show me the evidence for absolute morality. Show me definitive evidence that can be tested independently, separate from claims made by ancient texts or simply by you. It has to be something I can actually research myself. Now, when I speak on relative morality, you can look at that. You go out, you can examine all these different cultures and subcultures and see different moral structures throughout them. So, relative morality is easy to show. All you have to do is actually look. You can ask people questions. From person to person, you're going to find different moral systems, different moral views, even from different Christians to different Christians, and from different atheists to different atheists. Morality is not something that is set in stone. Now remember, when I refer to morality derived from an evolutionary heritage, I speak of fitness. Today, morality is a bit more complicated. So, this is because we've started to pull ourselves out of the evolutionary game with our technology. We're not out of it completely yet, and we likely will never be, but we are beginning to divorce ourselves from it. Whether this is a good thing or a bad thing for humanity is left for the future to know. I won't even make a guess myself. Now, in a reference to something you said I said, I didn't say that people are locked in to their moral values. I only said that people are taught their moral values through their parents and their peers, etc. True, people can change their moral outlook on life, but usually that process requires them to explore and take in new ideas and new concepts. And again, their moral views are not innate completely unto themselves, but are a fusion of other ideas and ideologies that come into their lives. So again, moral values are things that are learned for humans. There are some underlying tendencies that tend to be there, but again, people are vary, groups vary, and even those underlying tendencies vary in their importance or their expressed outward characteristics. And again, this is something that you can simply go out and ask people about and actually learn that these things are different. Me, I'm very liberal in many ways, but I'm also very conservative in many. I support, freedom for people to hold and to bear arms, to have guns. I live in California. We don't get to have guns like you would in, say, Arizona, and I think it's wrong. I support abortion, but I disagree with abortion. In other words, women should have the right to have abortions, but I'd rather see abortions not occur. And by that, the only way to solve that one conundrum for me is through education and the use of contraception and contraceptives. So you can see that I definitely don't fit the liberal atheist side, because I don't believe and I don't accept many of these liberal ideologies. I'm certainly not a conservative as well, because I disagree with many of the conservative ideologies. But I do agree with some of each. This is due to research, and this is due to thinking things out. So when it comes to my own value system is impacted by everything I learn around me. The same goes with you. Your moral value system is impacted by those things that you've learned in your life. You may want to say, no, my moral values come only from God. Now, I'm not saying that you actually say this, but I'm just using this as an example. But that's not true. You're going by what an ancient text says morals should be, and actually going by a small section of that text. If you went by the whole text, you'd run into many contradictory aspects. Forgive those that affront you, or no, stone them. One way or the other. So even between us, we can see that morals are relative. That's the natural state of morality. Morals are relative. Even if you posit a God exists, Without demonstrating that God exists, you can't make the argument that morals are absolute. You also cannot make the argument that morals are absolute without being able to demonstrate how they're absolute. Well, that'll be it for this video.